this is what we've been waiting for, is to get this opportunity to play for this state championship. And now we're here. But he's had a couple big runs this season for us. But it was a great job at the point of attack of our offensive line.
Franchini, play fake, looking, going deep. Tyson's open, pitch and catch, touchdown.
Right now, it's whatever it takes.
This is the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Now, here's Coach Smith and your host, Nick Kosko.
It's Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. With me for the final time this season is Mainland head coach Chuck Smith. Coach, appreciate you taking time out of your night as we wrap up the season. Tough way to end it on Sunday at Rutgers University, a 28-16 loss to Old Tappan in the Group 3 state championship. Guys are runners-up this year, but just a great 3-year run for you guys, getting to the state semis, winning a state championship last year, and getting back to the big dance this past Sunday. But ultimately, again, tough game. Just I guess your first reaction out of this one is a back-and-forth affair, maybe some missed opportunities, but you guys did run into a pretty good football team, and I thought it was pretty evenly matched throughout the entire time too.
Yeah, Nick, Old Tappan was well-coached. You saw that, when we were watching film of them. They know how to win. They were state champs 2 years ago. Some talented players on that football team. We knew we were going to be in for a battle with that game. And, just unfortunate for us, didn't come out the way we wanted it to come out. I think, credit to them. They did some great things schematically, offensively and defensively. They came out throwing the ball on us. I think the kid was like 8 for 8 on his first 8 passing attempts. Took the opening kickoff, went down and scored. We went 3 and out. They took the ball down again, and we're on the verge of scoring. And Khalid Foster had a nice interception to stop that and brought a nice return back. And then our offense kind of got going, but we kind of bogged down. We had 2 golden opportunities in that second quarter to try to get points on the board, and we had 2 interceptions there. And then, we finally got on track later on, with a touchdown pass to Jake Blum and tying the score. And then, it was kind of like one of those back and forth, tied at 7-7. I think one of the biggest plays of the game was them stealing a possession to start the second half. We get to take the second half kickoff, tie ball game, and they blue kicked it, and we just mishandled the return on it, and they recovered it, and they got the ball and eventually scored. And the other thing with them was they were really doing a good job of time management, taking a lot of time off the clock when they were on offense. Kind of remind me of how Delsey plays. Mm-hmm. And, he went down and scored, and then we're playing catch-up. And in the second half, both teams kept scoring back and forth. They scored, then we came down, kicked a field goal. They scored, we came down, got a touchdown, then they scored again. And, that last one was the nail in the coffin, kind of broke our back a little bit because we couldn't get them out. They converted a couple key third down attempts there to win the ball game. But it's a credit to them, a great football team. They did a great job. They deserved to win that day. We just let too many opportunities slip through our fingers against a very good football team.
Yeah, I thought it was a very hard-fought game on both sides, and I guess just watching it from afar. Again, you just mentioned before, they went down the field on their first drive, scored, and then you guys went 3 and out. They almost scored again, big pick, as you alluded to, by Khalid Foster. You tied the game, and then you mentioned those missed opportunities in the second quarter because you guys did go into the half tied at 7. You were supposed to get the ball to start the second half. Now, what did Johnny see on those 2 throws to the end zone? I know one was he was trying to get to Jake. I think the other one was to Rocco, and then they were both in the corners of the end zone. I believe they were both, or at least one was a third down. I think the first one was a fourth down. You elected to go for it on fourth down rather than kick a field goal. Then you went to Nate later in the game to cut the lead to 4. When you were thinking about that first turnover, or I would say prior to the first turnover, did you think about kicking a field goal from there? I believe it was about 44 yards, or was the wind kind of a factor at that point?
Yeah, wind was a big factor. Our kicking coach, Jim Cooper, came up to me and told me where we could go on both ends of the field due to the wind. Wind was really coming down the field, and that was going into the wind that way. So there was no way we were going to try a field goal from there. And the ball was just slightly underthrown, to Jake. They made an interception on the second one. It was kind of just going for it there. It was just they made a great play on the play. But yeah, it was just a back and forth battle. At halftime, you knew you were in for a dogfight. It was going to come down to that second half and what was going to be a big mistake or who was going to make a big big play in it. And unfortunately, they made it the very first play of the second half.
When you see something like that happen, and of course they take the 14-7 lead, you guys do come back down the field, kick the field goal, cut it to 4. Then they go down the field and score again. So it's 21-10 at that point. Now, I'm not saying your guys were just, in a lull at that point, because Rocco did come back, Rocco DiBiaso, immediate first play of the next drive. But I think it was a 73-yard touchdown run down the sideline. That kind of got you guys back into it. I believe you went for 2 there to cut it to a 3-point lead. Now, when you go for 2 there, was win the factor at that point, or was it more like we need to get within a field goal right here because Old Tappan was taking up time on the clock?
Yeah, exactly what it was, because they were really we needed to get points on the board. We tried to get in there, and they were doing a good job of really milking the clock. They did a tremendous job of that. And, they were taking 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes off the clock every time they had the ball. I mean, you really look at it, there wasn't a lot of plays in the game overall. I think overall there was probably like 50-something plays, 60 plays overall in the game. But, we elected to go for 2 there, try to cut it to a 3-point lead, for them, so we could hopefully hold them, get the ball back, and at least kick a field goal to tie it. But, unfortunately, we didn't convert that. And tribute to them, they got the ball back and methodically went down the field again and converted a couple of really big third and long plays to keep their drives going, and then they scored that touchdown. It really put the nail in the coffin right there.
What was the message and the mood after the game? And again, a lot of these guys were on the team last year that won it all, perfect season, and were just absolutely freight training everybody. This was a different animal in these playoffs. Again, you run through the sectional, win a sectional title for the 3rd straight year. So obviously you could tip your cap to that. You'll have another banner in the stadium. And then you had that dogfight last week against Somerville in the state semifinals. You gutted out. I'm not going to say a miracle win, but it was an insane type of win. And this one was just a back-and-forth fight. What was the message from the kids and to the kids when you guys were talking to them post-game at Rutgers?
Yeah, well, obviously a lot of disappointment. You get to that point where that's the goal you wanted. You set in the preseason. We're right there, and it was right within our grasp, really, in that game. And kids were very disappointed, especially the seniors. And like I said to them, I said, you don't realize this in this moment right now. We're all disappointed. We're all sad. I said, but you had a tremendous year. You won a sectional title. You won 10 games. You got to this Rutgers Stadium with a chance to win another state title. I said, when this all calms down, settles, you'll reflect on this and really have a great feeling about it. It's hard to comprehend that in the moment because of just the dejection, the sadness that's going on. You're sitting there and you're watching the other team celebrate and so forth. But I think the kids realize even today, it was really upbeat in school today. A lot of people were not in school yesterday because of the game on Sunday. But today it was more upbeat in school. Kids were very positive. There was no dejection, no what ifs, no anything like that. Nobody was really even talking bad about the game or anything that happened in the game. It was more everybody was just kind of like glad to be around each other again.
I do like hearing that. I wanted to give a send-off to some of your seniors. Excuse me. So, Rocco DiBiaso obviously leads your senior class. He was a two-way star for a running back and linebacker. Again, I think he missed only 1 or 2 games this year. Battled through injuries, had a tremendous second half of the season. And, of course, he was your playoff star for the most part, running the football and playing great at the linebacker position. And then, of course, a lot of your seniors are on those offensive and defensive lines like Jay Noseguer, Matt Mewitz, Ethan Schock, and Big Dan DeFeo. Guys like that. I think that's everybody that I hit. Then a couple of guys on defense as well. I believe Luca Bruno, another one of your seniors, is out there. What can you? And obviously, Khalid Foster. I almost forgot to mention him. When you look at some of those guys, and maybe some of the other guys that I missed as part of that senior class, they were with this ride all of the last 3 years. State semis, state championship, state runner-ups. What can you say about this senior class and how they kind of reestablished Mainland football?
Yeah, these guys have been there for the whole ride, the last 3 years. I mean, what can you say? Your sophomore, junior, and senior year, you win 3 sectional titles, a state championship, and you go to another state final, a couple division championships along the way also. These guys, I give them a lot of credit because a lot of these guys had to wait their turn. That's a hard thing to do in today's world.
Yeah.
The more and more I see youth sports, if somebody's not starting or whatever, they quit or they transfer. And you see that in college sports nowadays. Kids don't start. Instead of fighting for the position, they transfer and go somewhere else. And you see that in high school sports, and I give these kids a lot of credit. They stuck around with it, waited their turn. Jason Osegueras and Bruno and some of the other guys, Khalib Foster, they didn't start till this year, their senior year, Dan DeFeo and Rocco and Matt Mewitz, they got to play a lot over the past years. And Ethan Schock, they got to play over the past couple of years. So they've been a starter for a couple of years. But I give them a lot of credit. And, like Khalib Foster and Dan DeFeo, Rocco and Matt Mewitz, they lived in the weight room in the off season.
Yeah.
And it showed, and that's really the dedication that we have. And, Dan DeFeo is like an emotional leader for our football team. He's the guy in the trenches. You don't hear a lot of him, when the PA announcer or anything like that. He's not in the glory position on our defense. He's more of one of those guys that just takes up space and allows the linebackers to make the play. He's been a 4-year starter on offensive line, which is tremendous to come in as a freshman and start on the line. He's been unbelievable in our weight room. He's one of those guys that leads by example in the weight room. Mm-hmm. He's 3 times he's been in our 1,000-pound club, and that's our bench, squat, and power clean, which is legit. Yeah. And, I can't say enough about him. He's one of those guys who I know these younger guys, they want to emulate him. And we have this little thing at Mainland, number 55, that kind of gets passed around between our linemen. And I remember when Dan DeFeo came to me, because I tell you the truth, I don't even remember what number he was before. And he has to have number 55 because Braden Pullman, who was before him, had that. And Braden Pullman was one of our team captains who really was part of our initial 5:30 a.m. club guys. Now he's finishing up his career at Kutztown. And, it's one of those things like Dan DeFeo was like a legacy type of football player that we had at Mainland Pensacola. Same with Rocco. I mean, you can't say enough about Rocco. I mean, you talk about a kid who has persevered through a lot of injuries during his career. Even last year, had nagging groin injuries all the time. This year started off with a great preseason and all of a sudden got hampered by a couple little injuries with his leg again. And then next thing you know, he comes out and we're riding him all through the playoffs. He was like a man-child, a beast in the playoffs, just physical, punishing ball player, and a kid that really never came off the football field. Right. A Khalib Foster, I think the world of him, a kid who you were wondering if he was ever going to play at Mainland. Right. He was a D-back behind a lot of really good, talented kids, and just waited his time, and then all of a sudden this year there was an opening for him. He got a couple chances to play last year, and then this year just waited around. All of a sudden, he comes out with 6 interceptions this season. Just a tremendous kid. And, and that's not a knock on anybody I haven't mentioned, because a lot of kids, they're part of the culture we have at Mainland. Right. And it's just been tremendous. And, we're going to miss them a lot, and we always wish them the best. And I'm just glad I get to hang around them for a few more months in school. And I know these are going to be guys that we're going to see down the road years from now, when they come back to hang out Charlie's and things like that. You can sit there and talk about these moments and these memories, because that's what we talk a lot about football is, it's not just a game. You're making lifetime memories. You're making lifetime friendships that, 10 years, 20 years from now, you're still going to be talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I think I had maybe the fraction of the career that guys like Rocco and Khalib Foster had, when I played football. But I still talk, again, with my old teammates and my best friends, like we still talk about it. Those memories are always there for life, as you can always find a positive outcome, a positive memory from those days playing high school football. One more on this season to kind of put a bow on it before I give you a brief look ahead to next year. John Franchini, again, he'll be back next year, along with Jake Blum. Those two guys were record setters this year. I believe it's now Franchini's is the all-time passer in school history in terms of yards. Might have the single-season record in touchdowns or close to it. I know Jake Blum set the single-season record for receiving yards, and he might be up there. And you have to correct me if I'm wrong, where he is career-wise as well. What can you say about those guys and that connection this year, considering Johnny's a 3-year starter. He'll be a 4-year starter next year as long as all goes well health-wise. And, of course, Jake, unbelievable breakout season this year. Barely played wide receiver last year, and then he comes out. He's one of the best guys in South Jersey, if not the entire state.
Yeah, it's funny because both of them were the quarterbacks in 8th grade. One was in Northfield, one was in Linwood. And, Jake is just a tremendous athlete. I said this before, he's just one of those guys. He could play halfback. He could play multiple positions on our team. And last year he got a little bit of time at the end in the playoff run, really, again in the defensive backfield. Had a couple big interceptions last year in the postseason for us. And we just had to find the right spot for him this year. And he started out at halfback for us. And then we kind of moved him over to split end. Thank God that was a good move, because he really lit the world on fire at split end. I mean, it's hard enough to get 1,000 yards in high school as a receiver, let alone he was right around 1,300 yards when it's all said and done. And I think 15 touchdown receptions. Just an incredible athlete, incredible ball skills, hand-eye coordination, just catching strength. And I can't imagine what he's going to be like next year, another year under his belt and another year of developing and getting a little bit stronger and faster. And, our quarterback, John Franchini, just does a tremendous job, running the offense. He's truly has an understanding of everything within our offensive system, from the running backs to the linemen to the play calling to the pass concepts that we have and things like that. Just does a great job with that. And I'm sure, he's even going to be better next year. Every year he's taken a little bit of a step forward from what he was the previous season. I can only imagine what he's going to be like next year also. It's just, just very fortunate to have a lot of these guys back again.
Mm-hmm. When you're talking about what you're going to have next year, I know it's the 24 season just wrapped up for you guys, but the 25 season could be another great one for the Mainland Mustangs. Again, a lot of these guys are back. We mentioned before, I think we mentioned maybe a couple of weeks ago how you're excited to see a lot of these juniors and sophomores come back next season, because a lot of them are your skill guys. And I know the offensive line is going to be reworked, because there were a lot of seniors in the big uglies for you guys, but a lot of juniors, the skill positions. Some linemen are back as well. And I forgot to mention TJ McBall and the impact that he had for you guys this year on the defensive line. When you look at what you're bringing back next year, what's this process look like now? Because a lot of these guys will actually be seniors next year, so this will be their final ride in 2025. How does it look now in the offseason? I know some guys play multiple sports, whether it's basketball, wrestling, track, whatever the case may be. What does it look like now, a couple of days after the state championship? How do you move forward now to next year and start your preparation?
Yeah. I mean, anybody that knows me knows I kind of turn the page real fast. And, I sat there yesterday morning watching a lot of the game from Sunday, critiquing it, criticizing myself on a lot of things, and then making some notes. And then probably in the afternoon yesterday around 3:00, I started writing down notes for next year. Good, bad, the ugly, all that stuff, coaching wise and player wise and things like that. And wound up with like 2 full pages of just random notes for next year. But and then today, that's really what I was focusing on, is really what we're going to start to do next year. We've been having player exit meetings. The kids who weren't on the postseason dress list we've met with the past couple of weeks. And then next week, we start with the rest of the kids that were on the postseason dress list, where we all the assistant coaches give me their evaluations of the players they coached, and I add some comments in there, and we sit down with every player individually and kind of discuss the good, the bad, what we have to do better for next year to become a better football player and a better football team. So that's kind of where we are right now. We know we have a lot of kids coming back next year, a lot on the skill end. We have a lot of returning starters on both sides. We have to get better at a lot of positions. Our linebacker plays got to get better for next year because of who we lose and whatnot. Same thing on the offense and defensive lines. We lose some people up there, and we have to but we have some kids in the system right now. And we've been talking about that. We have a big incoming freshman class coming in again, probably close to 40 freshmen coming in. We finished this season with, I think, 37 freshmen. So we have, even though our school enrollment's going down, hence why I went from Group 4 to Group 3, our football numbers seem to be on the rise the past couple of years. I mean, right there in 2 classes, you have almost 70 kids, and that's not even counting your other 2 classes.
Yeah.
So and we know we're going to be having a meeting about our off-season weight program coming up. And I'm a big proponent of the kids playing multiple sports, because I don't want anybody ever getting burned out.
Yeah.
And but we all know that in football, football is a year-round sport. And I'm not saying any other sport isn't a year-round sport, but what you do from now till August really determines the type of player and team you're going to be from August till December. And, we live in that weight room, and we'll start that again in probably another week or 2. And, 5:30 in the morning, and we'll have a core group of kids in there and some others, and it's not for everybody, but we try to encourage our core guys that you need to be in there. Football is going to be your thing. You need to be there. And, I use Cohen Cook and Jamie Tyson, Stephen Ordilli as examples. They're multi-sport athletes and very good at basketball. And they were in there all the time in the winter playing, doing our weight training program. And the only days we don't want anybody in there is the day you have a game. Mm-hmm. It's not just going to help you for football. It's going to help you with every sport. I mean,
Right.
every sport lifts all the time, but in high school, it just seems like football and track are the only ones who lift during the season. Everybody else kind of lifts in the preseason and they stop, which I don't understand that. Never have been. I mean, we lifted 2 days before the championship game. We were still lifting, and that's just what we believe in, and it's kind of, we're not the biggest team, like I always say, and we're not the fastest team, but you know what, pound for pound, we're pretty strong, and that comes from our weight room. And, so we have a lot of work to do this off season, a lot of work, but we're really looking forward to it. We're kind of going to, enjoy this season right now while we come up on the banquets and all that stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks, all South Jersey and our own team banquet in a couple of weeks. And, praise the kids for the accolades and accomplishments they had this year, because we set a ton of school records this year, and, season records, personal records, career records, all kinds of things. And it's funny when you look at it, and I'm looking at the career records when I was updating them yesterday, and we have a bunch of these kids coming back next year, and they're already number 2 or number 3 on the career list, so they're coming right up on everything. But it's a good group of kids. And I think, as long as we do the right things this off season, I think we have a strong chance of making a good run again next year, and that's the goal, and that's what we believe in. And that's always our standard now.
Yeah, it seems like since the 22 campaign where you guys made that run and we're just, maybe a couple of plays away from winning it, getting to, and then eventually winning a state championship even that year, it seems like the new standard is here after this last group of seniors is now exiting. And of course, the seniors that came before them kind of set that new standard. So for 2025, and maybe, this question is maybe out of left field a little bit. As far as scheduling is concerned, I know you guys are going to be back in the same American division next year. I believe it's still on 2-year rotations before West Jersey starts, tinkering with it again. So, the difficult schedule is coming next year. Same teams. You're going to see a Winslow team that is going to be playing Wednesday night for a state championship in Group 4. So you'll see them again. You'll see the prep. You'll see teams like Cherokee and Millville, and then I think what was the one? Delsey might be on your schedule. Who knows at that point? But when you look at the schedule for next year, are you looking to do anything unique next year? Maybe another Battle of the Beach? Are you looking for that? Maybe some other showcase events for your team? I know, again, you're going to bring a lot of guys back. This is a state championship caliber team going into 2025. Are you looking at anything different for the schedule next year, or is it maybe a little bit too early to tell?
Yeah, well, you only have that one game really to play with, week 0. And this year we opened up with Atlantic City at Battle of the Beach, and they had a great year. You know, who would have known, that back then when we scheduled it. I knew they were always going to be tough because Coach Wright does a tremendous job with them. But they went up having a great year going to a sectional final. I don't know what we're going to do, with that game yet. I know they've been talking to us already. I didn't want to do anything about it till we got through the season.
Right.
We've been contacted by a group in Delaware to come down there and play in one of their showcase events against another team from a different state. Last year they tried to get us in when Camden dropped us for the Battle of the Beach. And we were going to play a team from Columbus, Ohio, but then Battle of the Beach got us Atlantic City. So we'll see. I'm sure that's all going to shake out in the next couple of weeks. They're nice to play in. Yeah. Especially when you can play in your backyard, it's fun. If we go out of state, that'll be fun. Also, be a neat experience for the kids to start the season like that, especially if you get to play somebody from out of state. But we'll see what happens with that. But the rest of the schedule will be that, and it will be a daunting task again next year. Yep, trying to survive the schedule and get through it, because I'm sure some of the teams that were down a little bit this year are going to be better next year. And the teams that are always tough, they're going to be tough year in, year out. And I know some teams lose some talent. But, there's other kids waiting in the wings, and you just got to take it week to week when you get to that point. Most important thing for us right now is to just kind of retool and set our off-season program in place and get that going and get the kids back on track with that. Because we do have the potential to make a run next year, but we got to make sure we do it smart.
Group 3 title is well within the grasp. But once again, and next year, again, what you guys have done over the last 3 years is certainly admirable, especially coming from a South Jersey school where, a lot of these North Jersey public and private schools have dominated the overall statewide scene until maybe it seems like recently. So, Coach, I'll leave you here with this one. And then, again, appreciate your time all season long. When you put a bow on this season, I know it was a little bit easier to describe last year's, again, perfect record, state championship. The banner's coming. And I remember talking to you about, it seems like every week there was different banquet, different accolade for you guys. So when you look back at this 24 campaign, where you get back to the state finals, come up a little bit short, is there a single word that describes this past fall, or is it a unique description of this group of seniors, this specific team? How will you remember the 2024 Mainland Mustangs?
A great bunch of kids, man. Nobody expected us to get that far this year, except for the guys that were in that locker room and the coaches, because that's our standard. But I think if everybody looked at us and said, hey, they lost all these people, 6 kids that made all state last year. And then you look at our schedule and people said, oh, we didn't play necessarily the toughest schedule during the regular season last year. But, we don't pick the schedule, we just get handed it to us. I think, you look at that, and we had a couple ups and downs during the course of the season. We got through some injury bugs in there, and the kids hung with it. There was never any finger pointing, nobody ever talking back. There was never any of that. Even when we had the big loss to Millville, we kind of had a lopsided loss to the Prep. We hung in there with Winslow till the second half, and then they kind of pulled it away from us. There was never any doubt in anybody's head, And I said that, when we played Delsey and they score with 1:38 left in the game, we get the ball and we got to go 78 yards or whatever it was in 1:38. There was never a sense of doubt or despair on our football team. And the same can be said, when we played Somerville, when we went to go for the 2-point conversion to win the game, or we could lose it right there. Nobody had to look at dejection or anything in their faces. And that's a tribute to the kids, They're a gritty bunch of kids, and I really I believe they'll take that with them the rest of their lives, because football is just a little teeny piece of the overall picture, and a lot of things that we do, we always tell them, hey, this is a life lesson. And I think just going through this experience was really going to help them down the road.
Looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the off season. Of course, we'll be tracking some Mainland basketball this winter as well, so maybe see some of your guys out there on the hardwood once again. Coach, appreciate your time all season long. Congratulations on a great campaign. No, it didn't end the way that you guys wanted to finish like last year, but still, nonetheless, state runner-ups, third straight sectional title. It was a pleasure to cover you guys all season long for the, I think it's the 5th year in a row now. So looking forward to 2025, see what you guys do and retool for next year. But obviously have a good off-season program, and we'll be talking soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Nick. I really appreciate you, your professionalism with everything. The broadcasts are outstanding. Matt, always behind the scenes, always trying to make something a little bit better all the time for everybody that's there, whether it's on YouTube or even in the stadium when we have the video board going. You guys do a tremendous job, and I hear it from all people all the time, not just the kids, but parents and other people that watch this stuff. I had a bunch of emails today from other coaches around the state and just talking about how they watch the games on YouTube all the time and stuff like that, and the quality of the broadcast. So you guys do a lot to help promote not just Mainland football, but high school sports, and it's really appreciated.
Well, we appreciate that as well. That'll do it for us. The Chuck Smith Show, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Wrapping up the 2024 campaign. We'll see you guys again next summer when we get ahead to the 2025 season right here on Cape Atlantic Live.